Can you see? Can you see the screen? One of you can say yes.
It's blank, sir.
Huh? Yeah, it's blank, but
no, sir, it is blank right now.
I see. So let me try. No. Can you see it now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so we were discussing about this microcanonical ensemble in the last few classes. It is an equilibrium ensemble corresponding to a thermodynamic system, which is associated with an isolated system in equilibrium. Is associated with an isolated system in equilibrium. And today we will try to discuss our first application of this thing, namely classical ideal gas. Now, classical ideal gas is, so if I have to model ideal gas, so I must consider this ideal gas as a collection of some n free and non-interacting non-interacting particles. That means they are free, means there are no external forces acting on that, and they are also not interacting among themselves. This is the description of what an ideal gas is in terms of its constituent particles. Now, the moment I understand this, then one thing I can immediately write down, I can write down its Hamiltonian. So H of Q bar comma P bar is equal to, since they are free particles, only kinetic energy will be there, sum over I is equal to 1 to 3 times N Pi square by Q. One of the components of the momentum of one of the particles. That's what it means. That is why I have 3n such components. So this is essentially the Hamiltonian. Now we can ask a question that we have to do statistical mechanics of this. Then we have to essentially find out the entropy. So as we discussed in the last class, so this is a classical system where Q and P continuously changes, energy also continuously changes. Therefore, we will try to calculate this quantity, we call it as sigma, as a function of E, V, and N. Okay, so as I said, that the macro state corresponding to this one is represented by fixing energy, volume, and the number of particles. So this is what it is, and this is essentially, as we have discussed on the other day, this is the minimum volume associated with some cell in the phase space, and then I integrate over the phase space volume. But of course, this integral is constrained. And what is the constraint? The constraint is that this h of q bar p bar is less than or equal to p. So this is how the sigma is calculated, and we have to calculate this quantity, and then and use this relation that S of EVN is equal to AB logarithm of sigma of EVN in order to relate to the thermodynamic entropy. So our task is to compute this one. Now notice that the Hamiltonian does not involve any Q's here because this is a free particle. Hamiltonian does not involve the coordinates, and therefore the coordinates can be integrated out. Now in integrating the coordinates, we have to understand that a collection of n free and non-interacting particles in a volume, they must be in some chamber, right? In some cylinder or something. So let's say they have got a volume V. V is already fixed here. Energy is fixed. And number of particles are fixed. So when I integrate over all the position variables of one particle, I will get one volume out. Similarly, if I am integrating over all the n particles, I will get n such terms out. Okay, so that means, so by doing integration over coordinates, we get this expression for sigma of EVN is equal to V to the power n divided by h to the power 3n into integral. There is still constraint, but now the constraint is on the momentum integration only. And what is the constraint? The constraint is sum over I is equal to 1 to 3n pi square by 2m should be less than or equal to. So this is the constraint. So I have completed half the problem, in the sense I have done the coordinates integral. I have got, for each particle I will get a volume, because particle can be there anywhere inside the volume, and there is no constraint. Constraint does not involve coordinates, and hence the constraint is only with respect to this. Now here notice that the constraint can be written in the following fashion. Okay, so the constraint is can be written as sum over I is equal to 1 to 3n pi square should be less than or equal to twice m e. Okay, so I'm going to write it in the following fashion. You will understand why. Square root of twice m e the whole square. I would have left it as twice m e, but this is a little suggestive. So now I want you to understand that suppose in so in two dimension, if I say that I have some x square plus y square less than or equal to r square. X square plus y square is equal to r square is the equation of a circle. And if I say x square plus y square is less than or equal to r square, that means this is the entire region inside the circle. Okay, so let's say this is x and this is y. Similarly, in 3 dimension, in 3D, suppose if I have x square plus y square plus z square is less than or equal to r square. Suppose if I have something like that. Of course, r is the radius of this circle. This is going to be, that is if I am trying to integrate everything subjected to this constraint, then I will get what is called volume of a sphere of radius r. This is also kind of a volume of a two-dimensional sphere, which is the area of the circle. Okay, so like that, this notion can be generalized. This notion can be generalized. And so you can say that sigma of EV comma n is equal to v to the power n by h power 3n into whatever we have here can be interpreted as volume of a 3n dimensional. This is 2-dimensional, this is 3-dimensional. So we talk about 3n dimensional hypersphere of radius. The radius is given by square root of 2mv. That is why I have written root and then put the square. So this integral can be geometrically understood as a volume of 3n dimensional hypersphere. Of course, we should learn how to calculate such volumes. Okay, so we should come back to this after we learn how to calculate the volume of a higher dimensional sphere.
Sir, sigma of EVN stands for the microstates, or?
Yeah, so sigma of EVN is, so this is number of microstates whose energy is less than or equal to the constrained energy of the microstate. That's what it means. Okay.
Okay.
So this is now let us try to do a small digression and then calculate volume of an n-dimensional hypersphere. Okay, so we would like to calculate the volume of n-dimensional hypersphere. So if you do that, you put n is equal to 3n here, then we get we could have solved this problem. So for that, let us So let us say that we have some dimension here and volume of a sphere. So if you look at two-dimensional sphere, which is nothing but it is a circle, and volume is nothing but it is an area, so it is going to be a pi r square. Sphere of radius r, let's say. Then when you go to 3-dimension, then you know this is 4/3 pi r cube. Now the pattern, from the pattern, we are going to say a generalization. I would expect that this is proportional to r to the power n. And this constant is going to be different in different dimensions. I do not know this constant, so let me call it as some Cn. So the volume of an n-dimensional sphere will be of this form. I think this much is something which we can learn from the generality. Okay, so if you say that your volume is Cn times r to the power n, and suppose you want to write what is dV, that is an incremental volume, then in terms of the radial coordinate, you can write this as n Cn r to the power n minus 1 into dr. Okay, so let us keep these things in mind, and then in order to calculate this volume of n-dimensional sphere, let us consider an integral. Consider an integral I call that integral as I. I is equal to minus infinity to infinity dx1 minus infinity to infinity dx2, etc. A multi-dimensional integral dxn, and the integrand is e to the minus x1 square, x2 square, etc., xn square. Remember, we are talking about an n-dimensional space, so there are n coordinates associated with that. Okay. So x1, x2, x3 up to xn, they are independent coordinates. So since this xi, I running from 1 to n are independent, we can write down this integral as integral minus infinity to infinity dx e to the minus x square, and for everything you will have terms like this. So I raise this, I will get the same result, right? Because x1, x2, x3, these are like dummy candidates. So I do one integral and raise it to the power n. Now this is a Gaussian integral, which I know that integral dx e to the minus x square plus minus infinity plus infinity is square root of pi. So I have solved this integral, and the value of the integral is root pi to the power n. Now we can also recast this integral in the following fashion. Okay, so let us recast the integral as a radial integral. And in recasting this, note that dx1, dx2, etc. dxn is actually dv. That is the volume integral of the n-dimensional space. And this we know in terms of the radial integral is n-cn r to the power n. This we have already seen here. So this we know. So we can recast this integral in terms of the radial integral as, so the same integral I is equal to, so let me write down this n cn outside the integral, and radial integral is always going from 0 to infinity, r to the power n minus 1 into dr into, this is simply e to the minus r square, because in terms of radial integral, this is x1 square plus x2 square, etc. xn square will be equal to r square. So this integral is coming like this in terms of the radial coordinates. Now you can use the definition of a gamma function. So you know that use this fact that 2 times integral 0 to infinity e to the minus x square into x to the power 2p minus 1 dx is nothing but gamma of. Okay, so there is an equation like this, I mean the gamma function definition like this. So from that, if you look at this, this n minus 1 will be equal to 2p minus 1. So it will be, p will be equal to n by 2. So this is, of course, n by half of n by, gamma of n by 2. So this is nothing but you have Cn into n by 2 of gamma of n by 2. N by 2 of gamma of n by 2. Or you can write this from one of the properties of gamma function, that Cn into gamma of n by 2 plus 1. Now you can see that I have evaluated this integral in 2 different ways, and we should get the same answer in both the ways. So this implies I can evaluate what is Cn from here. Cn into gamma of n by 2 plus 1 is equal to root pi to the power n. In other words, we have obtained what is Cn. Cn is equal to root pi to the power n divided by gamma of n by 2 plus 1. So this is the expression for Cn, and then once we have Cn, then we know what is the volume of this n-dimensional. So the volume of n-dimensional sphere of a hypersphere in n dimension is given by root pi to the power n divided by gamma of n by 2 plus 1 into r to the power n. So this is the expression, and now we know that this expression is there, we can go back to our problem of ideal gas. And as you can see that you have volume of 3n dimensional hypersphere with the radius square root of 2mv. So back to ideal gas. So the sigma of EV and N is equal to Vn divided by h power 3n. This part was there earlier. And now we have root pi to the power 3n, because it's a 3n dimensional sphere, divided by gamma of 3n by 2 plus 1, gamma of 3n by 2 plus 1 into square root of 2me. This was the radius of the sphere, raised to the power 3n. So this is our sigma of EVN. Okay. So this is something which we have write it in slightly simplified form. So let's write this as V to the N by H to the power 3n. And this I write it as 2 pi m e to the power 3n by 2 divided by gamma of 3n by 2 plus 1. Okay, so this is our sigma. Now, note that n is very large. N is very large, and usually of the order of 10 to the power 25. Of that order, Avogadro number, such a big number. Now, when n is so large, you do not have to worry too much about whether 3n by 2 is an integer or not an integer, because if it is not an integer, you can always add 1 or subtract 1. So, because of this largeness of n, I'm going to make an assumption that 3n by 2 is always an integer. And if it is always an integer, then you can write this gamma of 3n by 2 plus 1 can be written as 3n by 2 factorial. Of course, if it is not an integer, we cannot write about factorialities, but because this n is very large, because of largeness of n, we can use some of these things. So this is the first thing. I'm going to convert this gamma of 3n by 2. You know that gamma of n plus 1 is n factorial if n is an integer. So let us assume that this 3n by 2 is also an integer. If it is not an integer, you add 1 to 10 to the 25, you don't really make any big difference. Okay, this is one thing. This is in mind. So this is one argument I am giving to write this as a factorial. Now the second argument that I want, because ultimately what we want to do, we want to find out the entropy. Now when we find the entropy, we have to take logarithm of this quantity. So when we take logarithm of this quantity, we have to, I will use another approximation. This approximation is known as Stirling's approximation. Stirling's approximation. What this approximation tells you is that whenever you have logarithm of some factorial n, you always can approximate this as n logarithm of n minus n for large n. If n is sufficiently large, then this logarithm of n factorial can always be approximated as n log n minus n. Okay, so this approximation is what is called Stirling's approximation. Okay, so mathematically how this approximation comes, etc., we can worry about it later. But at this point, let me say that I'm going to use these two approximations to simplify these expressions. So now I'm going to write entropy. Okay, so relate entropy. So use this famous Boltzmann formula. S of EVN is equal to KB, and this logarithm of the sigma, I will write it in the following fashion: n logarithm of V minus logarithm of h power 3n. Okay. So let me put this as such. Plus 3n by 2 into logarithm of 2 pi me, and I have minus logarithm of 3n by 2 factor. This is what I have. Now I'm going to write this using Stirling's approximation. So then I will have AB n logarithm of V minus logarithm of h power 3n plus 3n by 2 logarithm of 2 pi me minus logarithm of, so I have 3n by 2 logarithm of 3n by 2 plus 3n. Okay, so this is essentially the expression for entropy. Let us look at some interesting thermodynamic aspects, because once we relate it to entropy, then we can do thermodynamics. So let us say that in our thermodynamic calculations, okay, so let us say that from thermodynamics, we know that from the first and second laws of thermodynamics, we can write down this du is equal to E ds minus E dv plus some mu dn. So here we have entropy. So I will write this ds as the internal energy is actually our total energy of the system here. So 1 by T into, I will write this as dE. Okay, so U is E here. Okay, and then this goes to the other side, and I write it as P by T P by T into dV minus mu by T into dN. So we have here S as a function of EV and N. Now you can write down that the temperature is defined as the derivative of S with respect to E, and the pressure can be defined as P by T is equal to derivative of S with respect to V, and mu by T, that is the chemical potential, can be defined as minus derivative of S with respect to N. So with respect to each one of these independent variables, we can take derivative. Then you will get pressure, volume, pressure, temperature, and the chemical potential defined. So let us look at, so if you look at the expression for the entropy here, now you can see that except this first term, no other term in this entropy expression contains volume. So I can immediately look at this definition of pressure and then try to calculate what is pressure. So P by T is equal to partial derivative of S with respect to V. Now, which is equal to, for ideal gas, simply Kb into N divided by V. Now you can see this implies I get this relation PV is equal to N Kb T. This looks like ideal gas equation that we know in thermodynamics. Okay, so compare this with ideal gas equation of state. Equation of state, which is known as PV is equal to N R T. What is small n? Small n is the small n is number of moles of the gas, and this R is called the gas constant. Now, if you compare this and this, the form of the equation looks like the same. And remember, we have derived this. Thermodynamics, this was never derived. It was just formulated based on the experience, but we derived this one. Now, if N is the total number of particles, and small n is the number of moles, what is the relation between this and this? Okay, if N is the total number of particles, then you can write down this N as number of moles, and each mole contains actually Avogadro number of particles. Correct? Each mole contains Avogadro number of particles. So Na is Avogadro number. So if I substitute that in this equation, I will have PV is equal to N into NA into KB. So this gives you a correspondence between the gas constant R and a Boltzmann constant KB. Okay, this is a very important connection that we have made. The Boltzmann constant is like a microscopic version of the gas constant. That means for each particle, if you want to call gas constant, and that is actually your Boltzmann constant. So this correspondence we are able to achieve because we derived this equation of state, and ideal gas equation of state can be compared with the equation of state that we know in thermodynamics. So you can see that for the first time, we are able to derive the equation of state. Now in thermodynamics, you call this particular equation of state mechanical equation of state. Mechanical equation of state. So this particular equation of state is called a mechanical equation of state. Now let us go to the next thermodynamic quantity. So let's say now we will use this. Okay, let's try to take a derivative. Now you can see that this term, these terms don't have energy, only this term has energy. So I can now write down 1 by T so now use 1 by T is equal to partial derivative of S with respect to B. Okay, so that is equal to 1 by T is equal to, so I have KB and then I have 3N by 2 into 1 by 2 pi ME into 2 pi M. So this 2 pi M will cancel. So this gives you that you have E is equal to 3N by 2 into KB. With the same correspondence in is obtained in thermodynamics. So in thermodynamics, we have total energy, which is what we call as U there, is equal to 3 by 2 nRT. Okay, so this particular equation is called energy equation of state. Now these two are independent. You cannot derive this from here or that from here. So these two are generally independent. But what we are able to do is we are able to derive both of them from a fundamental relation. So we call this particular relation, okay, so this particular relation as fundamental equation of state, because we are able to derive both of them from fundamental equation of state. So we have this equation of state. From here we are able to derive both mechanical equation of state as well as energy equation of state. Okay, so this is something which we have derived this for the first time using our expression for the entropy. Now let us go back to the expression for entropy and then try to write that expression in the following fashion. So the expression for entropy is, I'm going to combine those terms and then write it in the following fashion, is equal to, so if you can look at the expression here, so I have these different terms. So this 3n by 2 term, this 3n by 2 term, I can couple that, and then so this 3n by 2 here, 3n by 2, and there is a 3n here. I can also put by 2 and put h square here. So like that, I can do some combining and then write it in the following fashion, is equal to, there is one n that I can pull out, n times kb into, so there is logarithm of v. Okay, so maybe I should just write this term separately, that's fine. And I have 4 pi m e to the power 3 by 2 divided by 3n into h. Okay, plus 3 by 2. Okay, so how did I write this? It's simple. So we go back to this expression, and I have pulled out 3n. Okay, I think I may have to put this here as HQ, because I only took out one n from there, that is here. And this 3 by 2, this 3n by 2, n is taken out, so I have 3 by 2. And this is coming as a 3n by 2 in the denominator, so some 2 will come and this 2 will become 4. Okay, so that's all that we have from okay, I think I must use this entire thing as 3n by 2 and then put this as square, so that this 3 by 2 is there for the whole thing. Okay, so this is equal to, so I think the better way to write it is I have n kb into, I write this as logarithm of v, let me write it separately, plus 3 by 2 into logarithm of 4 pi m e divided by 3n h square plus 1. Okay, so this equation is something that is the equation for the entropy of an ideal gas as per our calculation using classical mechanics. To look at what this equation is useful for. So let us try to understand. So for example, let's say that we know that the energy of the system is 3n by 2 into kb. This is what we derived earlier. So suppose if I substitute that one here, then what happens? This 3n will cancel. There will be 2 here, 2 pi m kt by h square. So substituting substituting E in S, we get the following result. Of course, now S is not going to be a function of E, it is going to be a function of E. So that is equal to NKB into logarithm of V plus 3 by 2 logarithm of 2 pi m kbt divided by h square, okay, plus 3 by 2. So I have not written that bracket, so I am writing this as plus. Now I want you to recognize that this particular term, so we will define something called a lambda is divided by square root of 2 pi m kbt, and call this one as thermal de Broglie variable. As some time back when we discussed quantum statistics, we introduced this one, okay, and we can define something called a quantum volume associated with this one as the cube of this variable, which is equal to h cube into this to the power 3 by 2, or I can write it as h square divided by 2 pi m kbt whole to the power 3 by 2. Okay, so this is something which I can write like this. Now, if you look at this expression is exactly like this. If I take this 3 by 2 to the power 3, this is like 1 by lambda cube or 1 by v cube. So in terms of this one, the entropy of an ideal gas, entropy of an ideal gas is given by S is equal to NKB into logarithm of volume minus logarithm of quantum volume plus 3 by 2. This is probably the simplest expression that we can remember as an expression for the entropy of E. So sometimes you may not find entropy recast in this way in the textbooks. Maybe they will stop at this point or they will stop at some other point, but this is probably the best way to remember, because simple expressions are easy to remember. Now what we are going to do is we are trying to use this one to study some thermodynamic process. Okay, so let us try to understand. Let's try to understand. So let us apply this expression. In the context of mixing of two gases. So the situation that I'm thinking is something like this. So let's say I have a chamber, and there is a partition here, and let's say this is gas A, and this is gas B, and the whole of this system is put in contact with some heat bath. This is the heat reservoir. At fixed temperature T. That means the temperature of A and temperature of that is temperature of A is same as temperature of B. They are in thermal equilibrium. But let us say that this gas this gas has this is gas A and this is gas B. So this has got, let's say, volume VA and number of particles as NA, and this has got volume VB and number of particles as NA. And this may have gas with a different mass of the molecule, and this may have gas with different mass of the molecule. So this could be a different gas. Okay, so now what happens? This is essentially the partition. Okay, so now we can describe the entropy of each of this gas according to the ideal gas formula that we have derived. So entropy of the gas A, I will call it as SA. So SA is equal to NA, the Boltzmann constant Kb, into logarithm of volume occupied by this minus logarithm of, so I will call this as VQA, because the mass is different and VQ contains this mass. This can be different in general, plus 3/2. I'm just using the formula that we have obtained. Okay. Similarly, for the system B, we have NB, KB. Okay, even though KB is there, it is not for, this B is not for system B, but this is for Boltzmann. And the logarithm of VB minus logarithm of VQ of P plus 3/2. Okay, so this is our entropy of both of these systems. Now, this is the entropy of individual systems. Now, let's say that if the partition is removed, if the partition is removed, then what happens? Gases mix, and they mix, of course, spontaneously. Now, what happens in this mixing process is that suppose if total volume V is VA plus VB, then gas A as well as gas B occupy the whole volume. Whole V. Something which happens when gases are mixing, it will not say, okay, I will stay in this part of the chamber, you stay in that part of it. It will occupy the entire volume. So when you are trying to write down the total entropy of the system. Okay, so let me call this as total entropy. That is entropy of total system after mixing. So please carefully see that I am still going to deal with each gas, but now if you take first gas, I'm going to write this NaKb, okay, and instead of log Va, I have to write log V because this Na is occupying the whole volume, and minus logarithm of this, there won't be any difference, this term, plus 3/2. Plus, I have NBAB. This also will occupy the entire volume V, so I write logarithm of V minus logarithm of VQ of B plus 3/2. This is my total volume. But now, so total entropy. Now you can ask a question, is this same as SA plus SB? The answer is no, because you can see that if you take ST and then minus SA plus SB, this is not zero. Okay, so there is some kind of an entropy residual, so we call this as delta S. And what is this delta S? This is equal to, so when I subtract this one, this VQ terms and 3/2, all that will cancel. So I'm going to have NaKb into logarithm of V minus logarithm of Va plus NBKB into logarithm of V minus logarithm of V. Okay, or I can write this delta S as KB NA logarithm of V by VA plus NB logarithm of V by VB. Okay. Now note that since V is greater than VA, since V is greater than VA, VA and VB, okay, both VA and VB, logarithm of V by VA is something which is greater than 0, and logarithm of V by VB is also greater than 0. This implies whatever is this delta S is greater than, at best it can be 0, but it is greater than 0. Okay, so that means the mixing of the gas is producing some entropy other than the sum of the entropies that we have already for the individual systems. So this is fine because this is an irreversible process, in the sense, suppose I remove the partition, and if I put back the partition, I don't think I will get at no point when I put back the partition, I will not get gas A in the left half of the left side of the partition and gas B on the right side of the partition. So, so this mixing of gases is an irreversible process, and entropy production is expected. Okay, so delta S is greater than or equal to 0. This is expected. Since mixing of gases is an irreversible process. And hence, production takes place. Okay, so we call this delta S, you call it as entropy of mixing. This is the entropy produced in mixing process of two gases. So this is called entropy of mixing. Okay. Now you can consider a different situation where now we are going to consider now mixing of two identical gases. Identical gases means I have hydrogen means hydrogen there, I have nitrogen. So what happens is the mathematics that we have done so far calculated the entropy. This does not tell anything about whether the gas is identical or not. Okay, so if the gas is identical also, we are going to get the same result. Okay, consider mixing of two identical gases. So analysis as per theory implies that we have delta S that is greater than 0. But the problem is that if you have an identical gases, now let's say you remove the partition, okay, the gases start mixing. Now you put back the partition, you have same gas on both sides. This it cannot be distinguished from the situation before the partition was removed. Okay, so let's say we have so let's say we have this situation that we have gas 1 here and gas 2 here. Okay, they are identical gases. Okay, so now you remove the partition. Okay, so partition removed. And let's say after some time you put back the partition. Okay, partition with put back. Now, what I'm saying is that you have gas 1 here and gas 2 here. Since they are same gases, so the reality is that this and this, these two cannot be distinguished. Cannot be distinguished. What does that mean? That means that this simply means that the process of mixing of identical gases reversible process, a reversible process. But here is a problem. If you have a reversible process, okay, but for a reversible process, we should not have any production of entropy. That means delta S has to be equal to 0. Delta S has to be equal to 0. Whereas our analysis tells us that delta S is not 0. Okay, if the gas is same, then you can write, however, VA by NA is same as VB by NB, which is same as VA plus VB by Na plus N, because it's identical gases. Okay, we can write it in this fashion. Then we have this delta S now can be written as Kb into Na into logarithm of N by Na plus Nb into logarithm of N by Nb, where this capital N is actually Na plus N. Okay, and this is greater than 0. Okay, so this is a that the result that we have is giving a positive value for entropy of mixing, even for mixing of an identical gases, which we expect there should not be any change in the entropy. Okay, so this particular paradox, okay, so this is called Gibbs paradox. Okay, that means whatever calculation that we have done is probably not suitable calculation for, or you may have to make some modifications for an identical gases. So this is what is known as Gibbs paradox in the literature. And so the statement of Gibbs paradox is that the theory gives you a non-zero entropy of mixing, even for mixing of identical gases, whereas mixing of identical gases is a reversible process for which we should not have any entropy production. So the entropy of mixing is supposed to be 0. So one has to understand this paradox, and the resolution of this paradox is also related to some kind of counting that we have used. Okay, so the paradox is resolved by recognizing that some overcounting took place in computing this signal. So we will try to understand this overcounting with a simple example. Okay, so let's take a simple example. Let's say that I have three kind of boxes. Okay, and let's say there are three particles. I will call them as A, B, and C. Now, in how many ways these three particles can be arranged in these three boxes? So if I ask that question, then I can actually literally write down how many ways I can arrange them. Okay, so let's say the BAC, BCA, and EAB, and CB. So this is how I count the number of microstates, because each configuration is a microstate. So there are 6 microstates. Now suppose 6 microstates. Now suppose I say that this A, B, and C are not distinguishable. That means I can't say where is A, where is B, where is C. They are not distinguishable. In that case, what happens that all of these 6 will just reduce to one microstate. A. Suppose if they are not distinguishable, then all these 6 will be like this only. Correct? So that means whatever counting that I have done, assuming that they are distinguishable particles, is no longer these many microstates are there, but all of them will collapse to or reduce to one microstates. Now this simple example tells us that if you have n particles, okay, so if I have n, let's say that you have n distinguishable particles, and let's say you calculate some way. How you calculate is not important. So let's say you calculate some sigma corresponding to that one. So if you have n indistinguishable particles, okay, so indistinguishable particles, So one way is you don't have to redo the entire calculation. You take this sigma and divide this by factorial n. Okay, and and people call this as correct counting. So whatever you counted earlier was some over counting. Then you have to divide this by factorial n. So in the case of identical, if you want to use identical gases, then we must assume that these are indistinguishable particles. And so let us go back to the expression of sigma, and then we must write. So I have to go back and then say that the sigma of EVN is equal to V to the n into n factorial into h to the power 3n into 2 pi me to the power 3n by 2 divided by 3n by 2 factor. So if I do this, that means so I start from here, okay, and then redo the calculation that I have done in this example. So I will just leave this. You have to simply follow step by step. So you have a minus logarithm of n factorial here, which you can use Stirling's approximation, and then so use this sigma and follow the calculations. It will be a good practice, step by step, and show that delta S is 0 with this expression. Okay, so I will not do it. I will just leave this as an exercise, and I recommend that you should do it because this will give you a good practice of what has been done, and that will help you to get a hang on to this. Now I wanted to just so I just leave this exercise. You do this. Now I just wanted to make one remark at the end, and the remark is that if I write down this expression for entropy, including this factorial n, okay, so the expression for entropy is equal to n kb. So you can see earlier you had logarithm of v. Now you have one logarithm of n that is coming from this factorial n, and you have minus logarithm of pq, the quantum volume, plus there will be plus n here that is coming from the n factorial, and there was one 3 by 2 earlier, so you will have 5 by 2. Okay, so this is something which I want you to recognize, that this is equal to n kb into logarithm of v divided by n, which I will call it as some small v, divided by vq, divided by vq, plus become 5 by 2. Now you see this factor, okay, where this V is nothing but V by N. This is what we call as volume per particle. Volume per particle. Okay. Now you can see that this V by VQ, as we said last time, that this for classical cases, this V is going to be much larger. Okay, so for V is going to be much larger than VQ for classical statistics or systems obeying classical statistical mechanics. Okay, so now you can see that this is a positive. If V becomes of the order of VQ, then of course you have quantum statistics coming into the picture. So I am able to volume per particle and then the quantum volume of this. Okay, so this is somehow the analysis of ideal gas. So we can see that I started with the Hamiltonian and then I tried to find out the sigma, that is essentially the integration over dq bar dv bar. Dq bar integration is just giving me volume for each particle, so n multiplication of volume n times. And actually this is what led to overcounting, let me tell you. Because you see, we are expecting that the particle 1 can be anywhere in the volume, particle 2 can be anywhere in the volume. Now, if you imagine the entire volume is made into cells, so particle 1 being in cell 1, particle 2 being in cell 2, and particle 2 being in cell 1, particle 1 being in cell 2, all of that is counted in this volume integration. And that is what led to overcounting. Okay, so this is another remark that I should make here, that remark. So overcounting occurred in writing integral over dq bar to be v to the power n. And this is what we are undoing by actually dividing it by factorial. Okay, so that is So what we have done here is a few things that we did. So we recognized that with the constraint, the integration over the volume is actually a volume of integration over the momentum is a volume of 3n dimensional hypersphere of radius dme, and then we developed a method to calculate the volume of an n-dimensional sphere, and we used that expression to calculate sigma. And since n is very large, we are able to write this as a 3n by 2 factorial. and using the approximation. Then we took a pause here and then went to thermodynamics and tried to calculate several thermodynamic quantities. And for the first time, we have derived ideal gas equation of state, both mechanical equation of state and energy equation of state. And then we came back to the entropy expression and tried to write the expression in terms of the temperature, replace in favor of energy, replace temperature. And then we recognized that it can be written in terms of volume and the quantum volume. Then we apply this expression to the constant context of mixing of gases. So you have entropy of first gas and second gas before the partition is removed. And after partition is removed, gas will occupy the entire volume. So the total entropy minus sum of the entropies gives us what is called entropy of mixing, which is positive. That is fine if the gases are mixing is an irreversible process. So entropy production usually takes place. But the problem comes when we are trying to mix identical gases. Even in that case, the theory tells you that there is an entropy of mixing, whereas mixing of identical gases is a reversible process, and hence we should not have any entropy of mixing. This is what we call as Gibbs paradox, and the paradox can be resolved by recognizing that some overcounting took place in computing the sigma. And we try to understand this overcounting through a simple example. So if you have 3 particles in 3 boxes, there are 6 microstates if they are distinguishable. And if they are indistinguishable, all the 6 will reduce to 1 state. So if you have a distinguishable particles, you somehow find the total microstates. Then in the indistinguishable case, you have to simply divide that by factorial n. By doing that, I requested you to do this exercise, that you follow the same steps and show that the entropy of mixing equal to 0 if you follow this expression. And then finally, with this expression, I have related the entropy to the ratio of the volume per particle to the quantum value. Okay, so I think the final equation that one writes in the so there is an equation like this, which is essentially the same equation, but put it in a S as a function of EV and N is equal to N AB into a logarithm of V by N plus logarithm of 4 pi ME divided by 3 NH square to the power 3 by 2 plus pi by 2. Okay, so this expression is essentially, I am putting T back in terms of E by this. So this is the expression with that n factorial term introduced. So this expression is known as Sackur-Tetrode equation. Essentially, Sackur-Tetrode equation is the entropy equation for the ideal gas. Okay, so this is called Sackur-Tetrode equation. Okay, so I will stop here, and if there are some questions, we can discuss.
Sir,
Yeah.
how can we say the mixing of identical gas is reversible process?
Okay, here's the box. That is, if you are removing the partition and if you are putting back the partition, and if you are not able to distinguish between those two configurations, that means it is reversible. That means I have come back to the same original state, right?
But,
So reversible process is always defined like that. If you are not able to distinguish between what was there before and what is now, that means they are same. According to our observation limits. Correct?
But we can't say about gas in chamber 1 and chamber 2. The number of gas particles may be different, no? After
Whatever
taking that.
macroscopically measurable, observable, you will not be able to distinguish. See what happens, how many other molecules go from left to right, so many molecules will come from right to left. And they are identical. So there won't be any difference. Or at least within the observable limits, you may say that, okay, there is some difference at some point of time. Always in a macroscopic situation, we are talking about an average quantities, that whatever we can calculate or measure. Within that, there is no difference that you can observe.
Okay, sir. So one more thing. We express the entropy equation in terms of quantum volume, no?
Yes.
Will you come back to that page? S is equal to nkb ln v minus ln vq plus 3 by 2.
You are not audible.
Sir, that entropy equation. Will you come back to that page? Like
entropy written in terms of quantum volume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this one?
No, sir. Before. Like.
Here?
Yes, sir. Sir, while substituting VQ in the former equation, for me it's getting like 9 by 4 ln VQ. I don't know it's mistake in my equation, my calculation or not.
So you are getting what? 9 by 2?
Yeah, 9 by 2 ln VQ. Like we will get 1 by VQ raised to 3 by 2.
Yeah.
Then we can write VQ raised to minus.
See here that whatever that I have up to this, it is fine for you, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Up to this, it is fine, right?
Yes, sir.
So suppose if I take this and then put it here to the power 3 by 2. Suppose if I do like that. Okay. So this quantity is essentially what? This is nothing but 1 by VQ, isn't it? Because VQ is given by h square divided by 2 pi mkt to the power 3 by 2. This is the inverse of that.
Okay, sir.
Correct? Then I will have minus logarithm of VQ. Logarithm of 1 by VQ, which is minus logarithm of VQ.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
I do not know this. Whatever I have shown, this one is correct because this final equation I will always remember because it's very simple to remember. So you just see if there is some extra factor somewhere you have put in. Okay, any other question?
Sir, there it's like minus 3 by 2 into 3 by 2. It's coming like that, right?
Wait, minus 3 by? No, VQ is defined including 3 by 2, no? Including 3 by 2 in the power.
Oh, okay.
See, when I take this 3 by 2 and put it here, this whole thing including this 3 by 2 is 1 by VQ.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay, so these are actually whatever we are doing from now onwards is some kind of business in statistical mechanics. So please try to try to do it because we have 1 week kind of a time. You should try to work out, and then maybe you should see, and if you have doubts next time you can ask, because these are the things which are part of the syllabus of statistical mechanics everywhere. So you should familiarize yourself with all the techniques and concepts. Okay, so please be alert so that you don't miss learning these things. Okay, so if there are no other questions, maybe we can close.
Sir,
Yeah, Ashley?
sir, can you explain the meaning of that entropy equation? What does it mean by NKBT ln V minus ln of VQ plus 3 by 2?
Essentially, you have something like this. If you look at thermodynamics, okay, so let's say you take thermodynamics, then Clausius introduced entropy, and entropy is related to heat transfer. Only when there is a heat transfer, there is an entropy change. Correct? That is why people say that, okay, when you have an adiabatic process, adiabatic process is an isentropic process. But Clausius also recognized that there is some entropic production. Okay, and that is why Clausius had always written that ds is greater than or equal to Q. Because that in an irreversible process, there is some entropy production. Okay, but in thermodynamics, without any heat transfer, we do not know to talk about entropy, or we do not know what are the other sources of entropy. But it is Boltzmann who actually recognized other sources of entropy. Okay, so there is a kind of, this is 1855 or something like that, and this is 1871 or something like that. So Boltzmann recognized that volume or configuration is a source of entropy. Okay, essentially, if you have a gas which is occupying smaller volume and the same gas is put in a bigger volume, then the entropy of the gas will increase. So Boltzmann recognized that the volume is the source of the entropy. Now this VQ, there is a temperature in this. This is something to do with the heat transfer, because heat transfer and temperature are related. So this particular term is a recognition by Boltzmann that in entropy, or entropy is a function of the volume of the system. So that is what, and also Boltzmann also is a person who recognized that the radiation is also a source of entropy. Radiation is also a source of entropy through this what we now call as Stefan Boltzmann law. To this equation, he derived this equation, energy density is equal to sigma T power 4. Through that, he identified radiation also as another source. So this equation simply tells you that your entropy will increase even if the volume of the system is changing. Sudha, what happens if you take unidentical gases, that means different gases, then there is no problem. Whatever theory that we have done, that first case is applicable. There will be an entropy of mixing, and entropy of mixing is positive, and that is exactly you can calculate from the formula that we have made. So you don't have to divide any n factorial for the number of microstates. So whatever we did up to finding Gibbs paradox, there is no Gibbs paradox for unidentical gases. And hence we don't have to do this correct counting. Whatever counting that we did was correct. Okay. Thermal de Broglie wavelength is de Broglie wavelength, but it is like if you so you know what is de Broglie wavelength? De Broglie wavelength is lambda is equal to h by p. Okay. Now, suppose if you say that you have P square by 2m is the kinetic energy, and thermally the kinetic energy or the average kinetic energy is taken as 3 by 2 kBT. Okay, so if this is recognized, then you can write down P square as 3 mkBT. Okay, so let us say that you are talking about 1 degree of freedom. So it is simply mkBT. Or P is equal to mk. Okay, so this is equal to you have h divided by square root of mkBT. Okay, so now I want you to recognize that the wavelength is proportional to 1 by square root of t and 1 by square root of m, of course. Okay, so whatever quantity that we are getting in our expressions, so this h divided by square root of 2 pi m kBT is like de Broglie. Phenomena that happens is something called quantum confinement. Quantum confinement. And that is the reason why these nanomaterials are very important and there are so many applications. Now, what is this quantum confinement? And essentially, there are quantum effects. Now, why there are quantum effects at this nano size? If you ask that question, so suppose if you take the say mass of the electron you take, and then take temperature to be 300 Kelvin, the room temperature, and you calculate thermal de Broglie wavelength, it turns out that this is of the order of 1 to 10 nanometers. Okay, so anything of this size, or maybe 10 to 100 nanometers, or whatever is the size, then at room temperature you have quantum effects, and that is those quantum effects are actually responsible for this quantum confinement and other interesting properties that they have observed. Now you can ask a question. Suppose if I want quantum effects at 1 meter length, okay, instead of nano length, I want it at 1 meter length, then it turns out that you will still get quantum effects if you take the temperature to 10 to the minus 18 Kelvin or something like that. So at very low temperature, you can get any length that you want. But how low you can go is a different question. But in principle, you can always play with thermal degradable wavelength by simply cooling the system. Yeah. So I think the question what Alit Mahapatra is asking is an interesting question, but we will not go into that now. As I told you that Boltzmann introduced this Planck's the constant H, which turns out to be same as the Planck's constant later. But why Boltzmann has introduced this one as a corresponding measure to the phase space is an interesting question, and there is a large debate in the literature on this. But let us reserve that to some other day. And Arshad's question is that we made two approximations, but we still are able to derive mechanical equation. Yeah, so the point is that thermodynamics is a very huge system, and these approximations are almost like exact in such a huge system's limit. So whatever approximation we have made, they are not probably good approximations if you take small number of particles. But for large number of particles like that of Avogadro number, these are actually almost exact. These approximations are not at all. They don't make any. That is why the same thermodynamic results in our calculations. Okay, so I think chat box is also silent. So let's. So let us close then, Shruti.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.